And thanks for joining us today. It's exciting to be able to talk to another Salesforce MVP and just kind of pick your brain about a few things. I know we kind of kept it broad when we were prepping for this, and I think we really had started to talk about designing apps, but also that change management piece that sometimes gets left out, but feels really, really important as you start living in this space and working on applications for your customers. So I do want to dig into change management and then, maybe talk about how it might look different or have an increased importance now in this kind of pandemic world. So I know that you focus on change management a lot. So is there anything you want to say just real broadly or basically before we kind of dig into some fun about change management?
Well, I think it's an interesting point that a lot of us find Salesforce accidentally, and we then become the accidental admins with that as well. And with that journey, because you fall into it, you fall into trying to figure out stuff. You don't have these sort of formal processes or best practices in order to build systems that are scalable and future-proof, nor do you really understand how to engage with the people who are going to be those end users who are going to work on those systems to see whether they're going to actually adopt that system for the longer term as well. So having good principles about change management, how you address it, how you move forward, how you deliver, and how people adopt systems and keep going with them, that's something that can really enrich an experience. So learning about those sort of things and then learning how to engage with people like that is I think, is super, super important. And I've probably learned those things because of the mistakes I've made, and because we all make those mistakes as we go through. And you just go, oh, okay, next project, I'm going to do this. Next project, I'll think about that. And it's because of those continuous learnings that you do it. So, if I can share any nuggets tonight or today with people, then and stop people doing some things that I've done some terrible things in the past. It's confession times, like terrible things in the past. Then I think that could also be very helpful for people as well. So there we go. Is it very broad brush there?
I am laughing with you, thinking back on previous mistakes that I have made, and definitely the learnings I've taken from that. Do you think that you instill some of your? Do you think that the idea of change management kind of drives you in the design process for an app, or is it like at the end of the day after everything is kind of out the door?
It's from the beginning, absolutely from the beginning, before right at the beginning of the engagement, really, and the concept of why you're doing this in the first place. And that little word of why, super, super important. And when you are engaging with a client or engaging in internal users of why are we doing this, what's going on, what's initiated this change, what is the catalyst, then finding out that real reason and then digging deeper. And this concept of the 5 whys, where you keep asking why and why and why, and you bring out your inner toddler, your inner child to keep going, but why do you want this, but why do you want this? And there's an element whereby if you find that why can be a little bit whiny, because it can be, then you can use other words like tell me more, which can also help to elicit conversation and might be a little less like a toddler. So, you can use this concept to really drill down and find out what the whole purpose is. Now, we've seen over the past year, let's say, a big change in that and a big transition in people's working practices. And a lot of companies turn around and have been looking at digital transformation and thinking, yeah, maybe we'll do this and maybe we'll look at this. And then the pandemic came along, and suddenly it absolutely drove everyone's timeline very, 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 very quickly. So COVID became the biggest influencer for change and the biggest catalyst for change, because literally overnight, businesses went from working in their offices and doing their normal processes of shuffling paper from here to there, or whatever their processes were, to suddenly working from home. And then you couldn't move paper from here to there because you physically couldn't get it. So how did you make those changes? And so businesses had to think very, very quickly about what they were doing and how they would do it in the future overnight, so that they could continuously function. And a lot of businesses turned around and actually dropped some processes, which is really interesting, because it then makes you wonder, why did you do it in the first place?
Right.
And this
I think, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I think this is fascinating, that the whole COVID thing has driven so much change so quickly, when beforehand you might be struggling with a client, sitting there with them and going, yes, but we've always done it this way. Oh my God, that magic phrase where you have permission to shoot them because of this whole, we've always done it this way, but yes, but why? And a lot of business people will enter a business where they, on day one, they get shown, yeah, this is your computer, and this is your role, and this is your task, and you do this and this and this and this, and this is what your job is. Okay, fine. When you're brand new into a business, you may not question why you do those certain things. You just accept those things. You've got lots and lots of other input going on. You're trying to remember your colleague's name, for example, let alone the job you're trying to do. So you don't have that capacity then to start thinking about why. It might take if you're that way inclined, it might take you a day or so or a week to start going, why do we do this? This is interesting. What happens here? Or maybe you wait a week because you just want to be politer. I don't know. It could be the case.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm new.
I've been guilty of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to offend on my first day, but
yeah.
maybe my second day. And so, sometimes it needs external forces to come in and look at things and go, why do you do this? What happens next? Have you thought about that? It could be other influences, it could be technology or legacy systems that are forcing people to go down a particular route of a direction of how things are done. So when you have the opportunity to shake things out and to design from scratch again, this is the opportunity to start thinking, why do you do this? You do process from A to B to C. Well, in the new world, can you bypass B? Is that B necessary anymore? Can you go straight to C? Can things be done much more efficiently? And then, of course, when you are designing, are you designing because you just thinking about lifting and shifting from old world into new world? Well, I hope not. And there are customers out there who still think like that. I mean, like I say, this is the time to shake things out. When you move house, the idea is that you get rid of the old clutter that you don't need, and you don't take that clutter with you to the new house. It's the same with system and solution design as well. You look carefully about what you're doing and you think, well, is this what I want to move forward with? And maybe, the new system has features that can allow you to do things differently. And, these are things to explore, I think.
Yeah. I love that term, lift and shift, because I think that's a natural human, desire to just kind of keep going with the next thing. And it absolutely does feel like, as someone, so I work with our external customers at Skuid to help them implement their applications with Skuid. So we've seen that some of our customers who already had some of these, what we would call human-centered design practices in place, have really kind of been able to transition really quickly in this pandemic world, where they are focusing on maybe the essential needs as they're trying. I think everyone was potentially trying to cut costs as we were in a fear mode, and kind of thinking, do I absolutely need this? I think there's also been this really great focus on your point about you weren't in the office to pass the paper around. You also weren't in the office to tap on the shoulder and say, hey, how did we do this again? Can you remind me of what I'm supposed to do when I get into the system? I can't actually remember, and we've lost the documentation, and I'm just trying to turn the lead into the opportunity, Exactly. So I think it really has created this really great opportunity, and allowed some customers who are willing to start adopting some of these design practices and change management ideals from the start, or already had them in play. It's really allowed them to kind of thrive through what's been a really difficult time. I'm interested because I think it's always, I've definitely gone into rooms and starts of designs where it is a lift and shift. And then kind of, do you have any tips and techniques or advice on maybe how to start talking to the business about maybe doing this a little bit differently, about thinking about users? Are there some like tried and true techniques you've got?
I think it's about listening to them first of all, getting a top level idea of the process at first, and then breaking down that process. And it can take time. You can use workshops, and they can still be done online, and you can have those one-to-one conversations as well. But first of all, get the right people in the room. Oh my word, the amount of times I have had whereby management have made a decision, turn around and go, look, people are busy, and they've got to keep going with their job, stuff like that. And they go, well, don't worry, but we know everything's going on, so we can tell you, and we'll tell you the process, and we can make those decisions. You're like, okay, sure, okay. And then you take those requirements, and you get the idea of the process, and you write that down, and then you play that back, and you get to go to some end users, and those end users go, no, our jobs aren't like that. No, we don't do this. And that used to be the case, but we don't do that now. In fact, we do this process, which is quicker, or we bypass something. We don't want to do it. So make sure the right people are in the room, first of all. Then really drill down to each of those processes that are happening. And you've got to explore the fact that some people just don't like change. We are super comfortable in the things that we know. We like that little no change blanket that we like to wrap around us. So there's an element whereby people have got to get used to the fact that change is happening all the time. And in fact, your comfort blanket is effectively constant change. And if you can accept that, then you're open to the idea of new things. And that's a good thing. So when you're breaking things down and you're looking at the current processes, it's really interesting to find out that, are they doing this because, one, they're used to doing it, it's a complete habit that they're doing it. Two, they're doing it because they've been told to do it. Three, it's a system choice or system force element too as well. But four, they're doing it because they feel they need to get this piece of information at this point in time in order to do whatever the next thing is. What I rarely see when I talk to people about their current processes and why they do things is they rarely think about their customer. And they rarely think about their customer first and their customer journey. And what is it that they can do to make their customer get to the yes, or get to the deal, or to get to buy their product as quickly as possible? Because sometimes the business is thinking about all the other ways that they can gain information about their customer, but might be at the wrong part of that journey. You need to get the customer to buy into you, and buying into you. And if you're doing a great service, then the customer will buy even more into you. Then they might be happy to share other things with you as well. So putting your customer first and thinking about how they move through their journey and getting that as slick as possible, I think is a better winner and a better orientation to put mindsets to.
I love that. I think it can be really difficult. I think it's really easy for the business. And it's been really easy for me when it is like that external customer, but frequently our business applications are for internal customers, or internal teams, internal clients. And I see that can be where that mentality, that divide can kind of be difficult to kind of think in those terms. So I just absolutely love hearing you say that, because I mean, I think that statistics have kind of proven that out, right? There's been a lot of I have certainly rebuilt applications that I was part of building in the first place after kind of learning, continuously iterating on certain things. So I definitely, I'm right here with you. Like, get the right people in the room and ask and kind of learn how to ask the right questions. I know I loved hearing, like, right now the room could be, a virtual room, right?
Very much.
And just curious, like, has that process of getting those questions answered and kind of distilled down, has that changed for you at all in this remote COVID life, or is that kind of similar to how it was before?
I'm not going to gloss over it. Having a physical room where you have people in the room and you can ask questions. You are not having to glaze at a screen, and you can pick up body language so much easier, not just from the person that's speaking, but from the other members in the room as well. So you could ask a question that could be contentious or okay for one person, but contentious for other members in the room there. And you're going, oh, that is interesting. I'm gonna pick that up later on, or I'm going to come back to this. And you can gain so much more. And I suppose it is the body language side of things, and it's the feel of the room as well. Now you can try your best with a screen full of little boxes of people, and you can see their faces, but they also might be disengaging with you. They might be doing other things. So, you've got to try and read the Zoom room, as it were. It's a different space. It is a different space. And of course, we're all getting fatigued on how much we can concentrate. Whereas, in normal rooms, you'd be looking around the room as well. You'd be listening to other people. You might be writing your own notes. We're still doing that, don't get me wrong. But I suppose there is just this level of concentration that you're having on a screen like we are tonight. So it's an example that we're living with, and we're going to continue living with as well. So
right.
I think for big workshops, being in the space, I think, still has real credibility and real value. But we work in a global capacity nowadays. We work on global projects. Sometimes you would never have met those people. They would have always been via a screen, as it were. So you can still elicit questions and requirements. You can still have those really good one-to-one sessions as well with people, whereby I really want to tap on this one particular item, and you can really drill down. And having a video on when you're asking these questions, you can still get an element of body language as well. So, I think if the pandemic had happened 10 years prior, it would have been a very different situation for us. It would have been very difficult for us to function and to continue working as well as we have been able to do. So, Zoom and other WebEx services are available, but Zoom for a verb is something that has really helped and can actually help with change management, for project management and delivering projects as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, I'm right there with you. There's something about face-to-face that really allows you to capture a ton, but I don't know. I've experienced that we've gotten to talk to different users than we might have been able to get in a room before, because everyone has access to the Zoom, whatever the Zoom is for your company. So there's kind of the pros and the cons, and I think that's something we've been struggling with, or I've been struggling with, trying to get applications out the door. Is kind of my tried and true techniques have been, I'm having to change my little toolkit. But I noticed the other day, I was like, oh, well, I've actually gotten access to some other folks that might not have been part of a face-to-face session, but now that they're more facile with the video calls, it's really helped. I think some one-on-one conversations with video recording has really helped kind of distill what a user needs. We spoke before, and I think this is one of those things you learn over time. And maybe if someone had told me earlier in my career, I would have really appreciated it. But we talked before about vanilla, about like kind of, and I loved it, because I think that's what I'm seeing come out of building applications in a pandemic world, is really finally folks getting on board with vanilla being the favorite flavor of the application. Like, let's get what absolutely needs to be there and iterate, from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to be known within one particular business about this whole concept of vanilla, and it would be the thing of, right, okay, I really want to start us off as you're brand new to Salesforce, so I want to stick as much as possible to this concept of vanilla, which is how much out-the-box functionality can we use with just a little dribble of Raspberry sauce on the top, with the idea of here's some configuration and some tweaking, but really let's stick as close as we can to vanilla. And people didn't get it until they sort of started seeing some of the functionality come out and go, look, see, this is how quickly we can deliver this stuff if you stick to the stuff that's reasonably vanilla. And then we add the raspberry sauce with little tweaks so that you get it to be bespoke how you need it. But it isn't absolutely bespoke. It isn't something that I'm building from scratch. And they finally started to get it. And actually what was lovely is they started to use that term vanilla in other things they were working with too. It's like an absolute win. So yeah, I mean, I think it's so important, and Salesforce can allow that option as well, because it means that anything you're building, especially if you keep it reasonably vanilla with a little bit of raspberry sauce, it becomes a future-proof and scalable product that you can keep adding to it as you iterate with your needs. So yeah, vanilla is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm co-opting vanilla. I'm gonna start using it now, because I think for me it also is part of that that kind of piece that we talk about a lot at Skuid, which is we build a lot of really great things and incur a ton of technical debt sometimes. And I think it's times the pandemic has really put a lens on that and shown like, wait a minute, now we're trying to move really agilely and make some changes. I'm thinking about some businesses that had, we had to do some COVID dashboards or kind of change even things we were reporting on because the business was really changed by COVID itself. And sometimes that crazy customization can hamper you from that continuous, from that ability to to really do continuous change and continuous development. I'm also a fan because it's like the scalability just feels so important. For a lot of reasons. I'm kind of looking at our time, which has passed so quickly because it's just so lovely to talk to you, and you're just clearly such an expert because you're just so happy to talk about all of it. But I want to make sure before we end our time that we announce the winner of our Snack Magic gift card. It's $100 Snack Magic gift card for today's session. And I think I'll let you announce who the winner is because I think we chose someone that you actually know that's a participant in one of your groups.
Yes, I mean, that was quite extraordinary. So a random selection winner. So congratulations to a fellow member of the London Admins group, which I co-lead, and that is Matt Bevins. So congratulations, you are a winner tonight.
Congratulations, Matt. You'll look forward to an email from Skuid and your gift card. So one of the things we've been getting is some snacks. So it's not as nice as being in the office with folks, but food makes everything better. So
I think food and drink has been definitely helping certainly this household get through lockdown, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a year. It's been, I think we've kind of hit that year mark, and I've seen a lot of that processing of where we're at. And I'm a permanently remote person, so I haven't been in an office in a very long time, and it's been really interesting to kind of watch the rest of the world start designing apps the way that I do a lot of my app design.
Exactly. We've done a lot of conversion of houses and rooms and things in order to have our lifestyle now in this space, and so we can continue working, and I think a lot of that's going to stay with us, I think, for quite some time, and there's going to be a blend potentially. The world has changed, and I don't think we should go back completely.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's a term that's been overused a little, but that new normal, and I think that's probably right, though. I don't think we're going back. We're definitely not going to be there, next month. Excited because some of the things we've talked about today, I think, have really started to become front and center for the businesses that we certainly work with, in terms of digital transformation and utilizing. Have you seen this? It's like, I think there's been a lot of enterprises and smaller businesses. It's like, we've got Salesforce and we use it for this one thing, but we actually never implemented it for all, for all of the things we could be. And they're kind of taking that step back and going, how can we kind of leverage what we've got?
Definitely. I mean, I think this past year, after the panic kicked in, I suppose, in just the survival mode, how do we just do day to day? Then businesses have maybe taken a breath and just gone, well, how do we do this better? Is this the new normal? What does new normal look like? How do we move forward? Do we even keep our office? I mean, these sort of questions are coming through. And so if these are the things that are coming through, then how do we allow technology to help us move forward with the way we're going to be working nowadays and talking with our customers? I was speaking with my dad, who is very late into his 70s, and is finding it quite amusing, the fact that he's talking to his bank or someone from the bank from their home, and this is now okay. When beforehand, he probably, many years ago, would have gone into a branch to have that conversation. Then it was online to have that conversation. Now it's online, but from home to have that conversation. And by having these systems that allow for that security element, so everything you're doing is secure, allows us to have that flexibility. And I think, where does the future take us? It's exciting, really, to see where that goes.
It really is. And that is a great place to end our session today, is the excitement. I really wish we could have spoken for longer, because it's just been a delight, Amanda. So thank you for joining us for our App Hacks session and for all of your knowledge. And I cannot wait for travel restrictions to be lifted, and potentially to come join a London Calling session. So thank you again. And thanks for all of our listeners today. Looking forward to our next one.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. And for anyone else, this is an ongoing series with Skuid. Just check our skuid.com website for the upcoming App Hacks session.